What is going on, Wolfpack Nation? We are back here once again, y'all. Another week, another preview, y'all. I know that we kind of skipped the preview for VMI last week and tried to focus on Ice Pack, but I think that this week, obviously starting the ACC schedule is huge. So looking forward to it here. Looking forward to breaking this first ACC game down on the road against Virginia here on Friday night. Again, y'all, so we got here with us, if you've been a long fan of the show, then you know this guy as he's been on with us a couple of times, but it's been a long time since we've had him on. Dan Siegel, best known for when we had him on as a part of ACC content. But, Dan, first of all, welcome back. Glad to have you back. And what are you up to these days? I know you said you're at UMass right now, but, do you still do anything from the media side?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So thanks for having me on. Yeah, so I write for the UVA SB Nation site called Streaking the Lawn. I do a lot of content there. And also on the side, I do a little bit of content for College Basketball Review, which right now we are counting down 100 teams leading up to the regular season, 100 teams in 100 days. And NC State is obviously a part of that. So if you want to check out our team profile, check us out there. That's what I'm doing these days.
Perfect. Yeah, no, awesome. Well, good to have you around, and so looking forward to talking about this game. Again, first Friday night game that I think State's had in quite some time, and it's kind of funny how it worked out. I've never seen, seen us in particular, but UVA's coming off a Friday night game going to Maryland last week. Now they're facing NC State on Friday night. We're facing UVA Friday night, and then we play Louisville at home next Friday night. I've never seen this many Friday games before. So, I guess it's just the ways with trying to get, TV schedules worked out. That's only the reason I can think of why we're seeing so many Friday night games. And the fact that the Friday game, which has been the one that all NC State fans have counted on the last few years, being UNC, this year's not on Friday night. It's on Saturday. So, I think it's whole twisting this year. Any other reasons you could think of, Dan or Michael? I'm pretty much lost besides that reason alone.
I actually kind of like the Friday night game element. First off,
really,
yeah, we get a lot of eyeballs on the game. Two teams that are, they exist in the national landscape. They're power conference schools, but they're not super nationally relevant like Virginia and NC State. Nobody's gonna watch them if they're on at Saturday at 3:30. Nobody that has anything like that. Nobody that has nothing to do with either of those schools will watch them, but on Friday night, they don't have a lot of competition, so I like that. And plus, I could watch the game and then lock into that, and then the other big games I could watch on Saturday. So it might be a personal thing, but I honestly like the Friday nights.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah, me too. I know the coaches don't like it, but yeah, selfishly, it's nice to get your game out of the way early and then enjoy the rest of the college football games.
True. Yeah, no, again, definitely look forward. So let's kind of jump right into it here, Dan. So, let's go ahead and get the cat out of the bag here. With UVA, it's been, a rough start to the season so far, but I think it's been, it's kind of tough to really judge too much on UVA just because of what happened last year, in the awful, event that had occurred. What's your kind of overall thoughts? Like, are you kind of still on the bandwagon of, giving Tony Gibson a little bit of time to, reacclimate after such a tough event taking place, and still, since I think this is only his third year at UVA, so he's still fairly early in his tenure.
Yeah.
But there's a legit chance, and tell me if I'm wrong, Dan, but I think would you be shocked if Virginia is 0-12 this season? Would you be shocked?
I would be shocked. I think, well, first off, they have the FCS game against William and Mary, which off, William and Mary is actually a top 5 to 7 FCS team, so that's not going to be.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
That's not going to be a cakewalk by any stretch, but they should be decent, at least double-digit favorites in that. And I think there's enough bad teams in the ACC that they could get one.
Sneak out one.
I don't think. I'll say it right away. I don't think NC State is likely to be one of them, but I think there's enough teams. Boston College, Georgia Tech, etc.
Yeah. No, I'm going out there right now, y'all, that I said that if NC State loses to UVA, I will show up at the live stream on Monday wearing a tutu. I'm dead serious. I am that confident. There is no chance State's going to lose this game, especially Brennan Armstrong, who we're going to talk about here a little bit later. Returning back to UVA, there is no chance he's going to have an off day returning back to UVA. Like, that's not going to happen. So I'm telling you right now. I'm saying it. The red light's on. We are recording. if we lose to Virginia, I will show up on the live stream on Monday wearing a tutu. I'm telling you right now. Okay. I'm that confident. I don't see it. But anyway though. So so Dan, kind of talk to me a little bit here. I know that I kind of followed some of your tweets in the Maryland game, and you said you were kind of talking about Anthony. Tell me if I'm saying this name right. Colandrea.
Yep.
Anthony Colandrea. Okay. True freshman quarterback. Kind of give me your thoughts. I mean, he's a guy that, and he didn't start against Tennessee, but it looks like he did play most if not started against JMU, and then he played pretty much the whole game against Maryland. So, give me your thoughts on this freshman quarterback for UVA so far.
So yeah, the UVA quarterback situation has been quite interesting. It started with Monmouth transfer Tony Muskett leading the way, and he got injured against Tennessee. Really couldn't make an evaluation about him because the offensive line was getting just manhandled on every single snap. He had no time to do anything. And then Anthony Colandrea comes in. He has a little bit of an easier assignment. He comes in really in garbage time, so he can't make much of that. And then plays against JMU. Is not the reason they lose the game. They do lose the game. That's pretty bad. But he really balls out in his first 5.5 to 6 quarters of his collegiate career. And then all of a sudden he falls apart, throws 3 interceptions down the stretch, and Maryland pulls away. But I do think Colandrea has a potential, a real future with Virginia, hopefully with Virginia, but at the collegiate level, he's kind of honestly like a Brennan Armstrong in that he's best when he's improvising, when he's rolling out of the pocket, has very good arm strength and arm talent, sometimes makes pretty bad mistakes, but I think we are going to see Tony Muskett against the Wolfpack. He is more of the high floor quarterback, while I see Colandrea as more of the high ceiling quarterback. But there's a reason why Colandrea was not supposed to start the season and came in only due to an injury. I don't think he's ready yet to manage a game, to get through all 4 quarters and make the necessary throws and avoid making a mistake and that compounding into more mistakes. Muskett's maybe compare him to like a Walmart Devin Leary, where he's going to kind of manage the game, make the throws, not do anything special with his arms or his legs, but won't do anything to screw up either.
Right.
That's what Tony Muskett is. He's not going to be the reason they lose the game. I think if probably they lose the game, it's going to be more due to some other things around him.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions. I was going to ask what the injury situation was with Muskett, because I know, he got hurt, so it sounds like he could be back.
It was more of a precautionary thing. They thought that Tony Elliott, the head coach, thought that the difference between Muskett and Colandrea in terms of winning the quarterback battle was not large enough so that Muskett, when he was able to play but not 100%, they didn't think it was worth it. But I think he'll be a lot closer to 100% by this coming Friday.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. One of the next questions which I want to ask, and kind of before we continue on breaking down each of the positions, what's kind of the feel right now with UVA fans? Like, I remember somebody yesterday actually reached out to me because they're going to be at the game and was asking about like parking situation. And I was saying, there's definitely UVA fans that are, still, have season tickets that will definitely show up for sure. But should we expect still a fairly rowdy crowd, when we go to, UVA here this weekend? I already see you, shaking your head. So yeah, give me your kind of thoughts and like, what's the overall feel right now of the program?
No, I think a lot of fans are fed up, and there was a little bit of leeway because obviously the tragedy shortened the season, and you can't really make a lot of judgments off of coming off of something that nobody should deal with and that they are very unique in dealing with. But still, it's year 2, and you got to start winning games, and the crowd did show up for the James Madison game, and there was a reason outside of football they showed up. Obviously, like they were honoring the 3 fallen teammates, and there's that. But they did show out, and Virginia loses the game. There's a power delay, and then a lightning delay, and they lose the game after leading by 11 late in the third quarter. The way they lost, and the fact that they lost to a group of 5 in-state rival, I think a lot of fans are discouraged by that. And then they go out and get 40-pieced by Maryland on the road. So I don't think the fans will really be there.
But do you think that the fact that, was tied 14-14, at halftime against Maryland. So, it came out, and I remember checking the score being like,
they scored the first 14
okay,
goals.
all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, maybe something to hang your hat on. Nothing, obviously still lost, didn't score any points in second half, but, it's something.
They cannot close games. That showed me that there is capability, and just the coaching and the discipline and the big thing about a well-coached team is when one thing happens, it doesn't compound into another mistake, and all of a sudden you're down 42-14. That's what I need to see out of that.
Yep.
What do you think the crowd reception is going to be to Brennan Armstrong coming back?
Yeah, so I think personally, I feel differently than most of the UVA fan base. If I'm going to be honest, I do not think they're going to greet him well. This is not a UVA fan base thing. This is just college sports and sports fans in general.
Yeah.
If you think about it, they sometimes don't always act rationally and kind of behave based on emotion. I think that Brennan Armstrong did a lot for the program. He was a real competitor. He stayed during a coaching change and a big offensive coordinator change, and obviously a lot of the struggles last year were on him, but also it was a very unfavorable situation for him. And then it made a lot of sense for him to transfer and especially go back to the offensive coordinator he was so successful under. So I think of it that way, and I have zero hard feelings towards Brennan Armstrong. I don't know if I'm going to say I'm actively watching NC State games and rooting for him just because you guys play in the same conference as Virginia does, but if he succeeds, I have no ill will. I think there'll be a mixture of cheers and boos, but I think it's going to be more boos, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think that for Brennan, it comes down to this is his last shot. This is a guy who 2 years ago, during the preseason was talked about as being a first round NFL draft pick, but then he decides to come back, with the new coach and Tony
Elliott.
I'm sorry.
Elliott.
Tony Elliott. Yeah, thank you, Tony Elliott. And huge move for sure, and then it didn't pan out. And so it's like, well, if I'm going to have one shot, and if I truly do believe I have the talent and the skill that it takes to play at the next level, then I need to make sure that there's nothing left on the table. And you see Robert Nye, who's a guy that you threw 41 touchdowns and 10 interceptions, with, and you see him at NC State, and you see an opportunity to go play, and also too at a place that has history of developing great quarterbacks, and a coaching staff has a history of developing great quarterbacks, and Coach Dave Dorn, and you say him. And you look at all the weapons, again, not saying look at all of our amazing weapons, because we'll talk about that, but there's a lot of them. And then just again, with UVA, and from everything I've seen, the losing of, all of your wide receiver options. I think the leading receiver that you have from last year had 17 catches last year that returned this year. So I think it was a tight end who is your leading receiver that is returning this year. He had 17 catches last year. So, you're just not having much returning production. So I'm sure, obviously the coaching staff can say, and hype up a lot of things, but then it's it's a risk. It's a huge risk, and it's a risk with a guy in Des Kitchings, who's a guy that holds a huge place in my heart, because when I was a equipment manager, I worked under him for 2 years, and I mean that dude, he wrote me a letter of recommendation. An amazing guy, loves his family, like, great man, great coach. Probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest running back coaches in the country. But unfortunately, at UVA, he's the offensive coordinator. And, during his 1 year at NC State in 2019, didn't work out. Last year at UVA, it hasn't worked out. So just unfortunately, you're asking Brennan to put faith in a guy that just in 2 years, he's just not been able to produce. Now, is it his fault? No, not necessarily his fault. Again, he just hasn't really had weapons. Back in 2019, we were dealing with a lot of injuries, a quarterback change, you name it. And then last year, you had Brennan, but just new coaching staff, new philosophy, new playbook. It just didn't work out. Things didn't click. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of my 2 cents. I mean, anything you'd add on to that, Dan, or maybe correct me on?
No, I agree with everything you said. One thing you didn't even mention is the fact that it's just, well, NC State, no, they're not like a national playoff contender. They're a lot more of a winning program. He's there to win games. And
shocker, right? To a lot of State fans, you may not believe that, but we are a winning program under Dave Doran.
Yeah.
Not necessarily ACC, but overall. Okay, mind blown.
And a lot more so than Virginia in 2023. That's really a statement nobody could disagree with.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, and so kind of talk to me about, you followed Brennan for quite some time for sure. I think, the biggest thing from this offseason when you've talked about Brennan Armstrong is, can we see the 2021 Brennan Armstrong that was a borderline Heisman candidate? Again, he threw for almost 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 10 receptions. I'm not even looking at it. I know it off the top of my head because that's all I was thinking about the whole offseason. And so you're saying to yourself, if I can get 75% of that this year with this defense, highlighted by Peyton Wilson, Aiden White, we're going to be an ACC contender. Now, what we've seen so far, we've not seen that. We've seen a 63% completion percentage, which is solid. Not phenomenal, but solid. Back in 2021, it was at 65%, so not much of a drop off there. Averaging about 225 yards a game in 3 games, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 120 QBR rating. But again, one of those games, which I say in UConn, he fully admitted that basically he went into that game knowing that UConn was probably going to pay a lot of deep coverage, and they did. And so he just decided to run the ball more and get the first down, not take sacks, do what it takes to win the game. Notre Dame, it just seemed like there was just something off, but you saw things start to click a little bit, but maybe unfortunately later than they needed to. And then, again, against VMI, as of this recording yesterday, played a nearly flawless game. So, I mean, for me, I'm sitting here saying you got to give the guy time. You got to give him, an opportunity to gain some chemistry with these weapons, get some game reps with these guys, get some game film to watch back, learn from, and take it into, again, luckily enough, our schedule has been nice in the fact that, again, no disrespect to UVA, but it's not like we're facing Clemson week 4. It's not like we're facing Clemson or Florida State right now. It's like we're going to find out now, we're going to hit our head against the wall and see if the wall cracks. We have a little bit of time until we see that competition. So kind of give me your thoughts so far. I know you've probably seen Brennan. What are your thoughts on him so far? And would you say he's closer to 2022 Brennan Armstrong right now or 2021?
Okay, that's very hard to say because that was the most insane drop-off I've ever seen in terms of just dominance versus absolute incompetence. I just don't know how that happens, even with all the factors considered, the weapons not being nearly as good, the offensive system being completely different. But it's also, I went into the year knowing best case scenario for Brennan Armstrong, he's not putting up the numbers that he put up in 2021. And the reason is because the offensive game plan is just different at NC State. Remember that Virginia went 6-6 in 2021. And why? Because part of their game plan for Brennan Armstrong was kind of flawed. They would put up 45 points, but hold the ball for 25% of the game. And it was throw the ball on first down, throw the ball on second down, throw the ball downfield on third down. And he would take a lot of sacks, but then he'd just convert on 3rd and 16 with some dime. Like that's not going to be what NC State's trying to do. It's a lot more. You guys know this very well with Dorian. It's a lot more complementary football, ball control, clock control.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that's hard to answer. But I do think Brennan Armstrong is a lot closer to where, at least Wolfpack fan. This is my opinion from an outsider's perspective, where they should expect him to be, but he's nowhere close to his full potential right now.
So what would you say has been part of his game that you feel like that has not been to, like, again, kind of give me an outsider perspective who's seen Brennan Armstrong's game. Like, tell me, what are the things that you say he's done well in like in 2021, he did well at this, but we're not seeing that right now. Like why is it that we're not seeing like that right now? We're seeing 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Why aren't we seeing 6 touchdowns and 1 interception?
Mm-hmm. Well, the interceptions, it makes sense because he still never was. He was fearless and he would make every throw. He thought he could make every throw on the field, and he could at that point. The problem was sometimes that high reward also is costed by high risk. But I think in 2021, every throw was on the money. Downfield, in the flats, intermediate, every throw is on the money. And the accuracy is a lot better than last year, but not quite where he was in 2021. Now, Brennan Armstrong did also start in 2020, another 500 season for Virginia, and I think that's honestly what we've kind of been seeing out of Brennan Armstrong more this year, his first year as a starter, where he would make plays, but it was mostly with his legs, just running through contact, being just a dog out there, for lack of better terms. And he's definitely like a gamer, but it's not. It's more. That's what I compare it to, like 2020, where that was kind of his playing style.
Yeah. And Michael, I'll kind of give you an opportunity to ask the final question here for this part, but as we kind of wrap up Brennan Armstrong here, but just kind of give a recap back at 2020, he was 58.6% completion, 2,100 yards passing, and 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So yeah, not a lot of action there, but not bad though either. Like didn't kill yourself. So
one thing I remember, all 3 years he absolutely balled out against UNC. So that's a good.
We'll
thing.
take that. We like that. We like that. Yeah.
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 So, what do you expect out of Brennan Armstrong against Virginia? I kind of asked, what do you think the crowd's reaction to him was going to be like? How do you think he's going to handle coming back to UVA and playing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly don't know. I think I could see him definitely being fired up. I think this game, there's no avoiding it. I think he's even said it to the media. This game means more to him than any given game against an 0-3 ACC opponent.
Yeah,
he's going to make a statement. Brennan Armstrong does usually thrive in those situations where he's more motivated. So I think he definitely could go out and throw for like 300 yards and Wolfpack put up 30 points. I could definitely see that happening, but it's the same thing. Like, if he makes a mistake, do they compound? Because that's a big Brennan Armstrong thing too.
Well, because I'm sitting here saying that, I mean, like defensively, I mean, I think that UVA has been led by the front four, pass rush wise this season so far, but I mean, there's nothing necessarily on the defensive side that I'm sitting here saying, well, Brennan Armstrong needs to watch out for that. Like, I mean, there's solid options for sure, but there's not, at least from what I'm seeing, doing my research, things like that, there's not that thing that's like, you got to watch, you got to get over this. Like, then I'm sitting here saying if Brennan plays like he should play, even taking out all of the motivation factors, he should play a great game. But you add in the fact that he is returning to the school that he played at for, he was at for 5 years, and now he started after 3. He's going to want to make a statement, like making it clear that, listen, this is the right move for me, man. Like last year I was struggling, but see, look at me now, like, like I'm put 350, I'm, pass for 3 touchdowns, run for 1 more, like, that's what I expect, and that's why I'm so confident that he's going to win this game, that we're going to win this game, is because of the fact that I can't wrap my head around him doing anything less, because especially now that I've seen what I've seen out of him at against VMI, which is basically a flawless game, made all the right decisions, was accurate with the ball, 27 for 32, didn't throw an interception, like a nearly flawless game. So, I mean, if he does that against Virginia, where I'm hoping that Virginia doesn't do as much 3 deep, so that way we can start doing some deep shots finally, then yeah, I think it's going to be a good day for him. So
yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, the last thing I'll add is from a schematic perspective, I think the thing you're going to see out of Brennan Armstrong is what UVA struggled with a lot, and that is containing quarterbacks once they get outside the pocket. I don't know how much you've dove into Virginia game film, but they could get to the quarterback, but they have a lot of trouble keeping contained when the quarterback is mobile, and that's what leads to the big shots downfield. And there's the Tagovailoa big touchdown where UVA got some good pressure. He rolls out right, throws an absolute bomb, one-on-one coverage to the outside, touchdown for like 60 yards. That's really that epitomizes what I feel like has been the defensive struggles this year. It's the big plays.
I got it. Perfect. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Well, first of all, Wolfpack Nation, we'll wrap up part 1 right there. Make sure to tune back in with this here for part 2, as we will do our keys to the game as well as our score predictions as well. And also too, for those who are going to UVA, maybe talk a little bit about what to do in the area before the game, since you're probably gonna have a little bit of time to kill unless you're coming in right at game time. But Dan, if you don't mind, make sure to give a plug for anybody who wants to check out your work or follow you. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I am most active with my sports content on my own personal Twitter. That is Dan Siegel _ Dan SIEGEL _. You can follow us on Streaking the Lawn UVA. That is the SB Nation site, and also, not the theme of this episode, but we do a lot of good college basketball stuff at CBB Review, so check us out there as well.
It's perfect. All righty, y'all. And for us, Wolfpack Nation, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you think NC State's going to win, hit that like button, baby. And if you think NC State's going to lose, then hit that dislike button twice. Yeah, make sure to hit it twice, y'all. If you think State's going to lose. And then make sure to give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now, on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And we'll see y'all for part 2. Go Pack, y'all.